Ari, thank you. And once again, welcome to the How to Hybrid workshop this evening. You are, as Kari said, in for a treat. And I'm going to turn it over to Stephanie so she can introduce our amazing guest for the evening. Stephanie, DTM.
Good evening. Thank you, DTM Phyllis Breach. We are so excited to have with us an amazing speaker this evening, Amanda May Gray. Amanda May is here to help you feel more confident conducting your next or maybe even your first hybrid meeting. Amanda has traveled around to different clubs in our district and beyond to figure out this hybrid thing. Although she is sure that there is much more to learn, she is so excited to share with you what she has uncovered thus far. As the resident on-camera expert, she combines her experiences from acting to Zoom meetings, now over to hybrid, to help make sure your team is ready and able to meet both in person and online. I'm excited to present to all our amazing facilitator, Toastmaster Amanda May Gray.
Thank you so much, Stephanie, Kari, and Phyllis, for bringing me in to do this. It has been an interesting transition to figure out how the heck do we take this, bring it in person, but still combine the two things for the best of both worlds. I don't know about any of you, but I am in two clubs that now have members, well, literally around the world. So I'm a member of Speakers Roundtable Advanced Club and Toast of Cobb, and both clubs have been meeting online, and both clubs have also had some hybrid meetings. But in addition to that, I also have helped run some networking meetings for the Buckhead Networking Group. I've gone to a Rotary meeting, which was very similar and very different to a Toastmasters meeting. And if you've ever been to a Rotary, you know what I mean. They sang a song at the end and had us all sing, and I wasn't ready, but I wasn't mad, you know? But the point is, I've gotten to learn from a bunch of different places, and I'm excited to bring this information to you guys. I'm going to be presenting using the lovely Canva, which if you guys haven't used Canva before, if you were at the business meeting, you probably heard about it. It's a fantastic platform that allows you to create really amazing looking graphic slides. My website I'm creating with it. But what we just discovered literally moments before starting this meeting is that I can present and have a chat live at the same time on Canva. So if you feel like you want to do that, I won't be looking at the chat here specifically, but you can join the conversation on the Canva part itself. And I dropped that audience code into the chat itself, so you can check that out. Let's go ahead and pop right into this. Oh, except I did the wrong one. Hold on. Stop share. Why? Because that's just how you do it. Sometimes you just got to mess it up. Okay, cool. So how to hybrid. Hybrid is something that we need to learn so that we can make sure that all of our members are feeling comfortable and confident in this setting. Some of your members may not fully be ready to come back in person yet. And maybe, like I mentioned, you have some members that are elsewhere, maybe not in the district, maybe not even in this country. And you want to retain those members and still give them a great experience. And so that's why our mission with this is to make sure everybody is happy, both in person and online. And yes, I am seeing the chats and they will pop up, but anonymous, you gotta go ahead and put your name in there because I don't know who you are and I would like to. But that is that fun feature we have just discovered. And I will just say right off the bat, the key is testing, trying things out, and not being afraid of things not fully working out. I promise the first time is going to be the hardest time that you go hybrid. What I want you to stay focused on is keeping it simple, starting with what you have and going from there. Because you don't want to overwhelm yourself and get too in the weeds with all the tech and the different things. What I'm going to show you today is what I've found to be what I think are the best practices, like I said, thus far, but I'm sure there's other adaptions and I'm sure there's other things that you can do. So I'm specifically talking about a Toastmasters meeting and how that is going to be beneficial to you. So for our agenda, we are going to go over what you need in the room, what the people online need, what needs to happen as far as task delegation, what you really have to have, and that kind of has a little asterisk because again, I want you to start where you are and build on it, but what I find best practice must-haves, what I have found are some nice to haves, and then we're going to leave plenty of time for Q&A because I'm guessing there are some other people out there that may have great ideas, have done some hybrid before as well, or have some serious questions they need answered that hopefully I will be able to answer for you. Our goal for today is to make both in-person and online people feel included for the hybrid meeting. That is by far the most important. And what I don't want you to do is just go into your old habits of being in person and then neglect the hybrid portion and then lose that audience, lose those people who have been invested and have been online with you this whole time. Or, you know, if they can't make it because it's raining out and traffic is ridiculous in Atlanta when it's raining and they didn't quite make it to the meeting, so they're like, you know what, I'm just gonna stay home, stay in the office, whatever, just log in online. Because I find that's actually what happens as well. People have really good intentions to come to the meeting, but they know it's hybrid, so then they're still tuning in and signing in that way. So there's two keys to having a successful hybrid meeting that meets those goals. The first thing is the people in the room, physically in the room with you. Those people need to be able to hear and see the other people that are then online on a Zoom meeting like this. The second portion is that the people online need to be able to hear and also see those people in the room. And what I find happens a lot is, like I said, that online kind of gets pushed to the back burner and they aren't having the greatest experience because they're not being remembered about hearing and seeing. Full disclosure, it is very easy when you are in person for the first time again to get caught up in that atmosphere. And it totally feels weird to present in person the first time. Totally feels weird. But it also is weird because you're trying to remember to look into this camera and look at the people behind the camera. So it's a little awkward, I guess is the best word. But it's going to get better. Just like the first time you gave a speech in Toastmasters, it was probably awkward, maybe a little uncomfortable, maybe completely nerve-wracking, but you've gotten better each time you've done it, whether you realize that or not. So let's dive into what people see and hear from their online attendees. The first and most important thing we really need to talk about is having a strong internet connection. I don't know what I was trying to say there, but connection. You could do that wired with Wi-Fi or even using a hotspot. The first online meeting that was also hybrid, I shouldn't say online, the first hybrid meeting that Speakers Roundtable had was outside in this pretty park at a pavilion. There were all these beautiful picnic tables. We had food set up and some drinks. And everybody was going to bring something to eat and just have this wonderful experience. And then it started to rain. And so we're rushing from the parking area over to the pavilion. And that's when I realized, because it was the first time I'd ever even been at this pavilion, there's no Wi-Fi and there's no electricity. Which is to say, always have a plan B. Thankfully, I sold cell phones back when I lived in Florida before coming to Atlanta. And let me go to a little context. Like when BlackBerries were cool, that's when I got into selling cell phones. Okay. I just want to clarify because I know some people are like, yeah, whatever, Amanda. You're like, what? Super young. You don't know pre-smartphone. Oh, yes, I do. Not the point. Point is, I knew that with a smartphone, you can take this internet connection pending you have unlimited internet. Please don't do this if you have data limits. But you can use it and hook it up to your computer to give it Wi-Fi. I'm not going to go through how to do that, but there are options that as long as you got a cell phone signal, you will have internet. But you want to make sure you do have internet. And when I was researching this, I found some YouTube videos about it as well. And one thing that really hit me that I hadn't thought of was if you are having bandwidth issues and you do have more than one device on it, you can always turn off the camera on the main or on the secondary devices and only have the main device's camera on so that you're getting the best quality stream for your people online. But without internet, this whole thing doesn't work. If you've ever seen me talk about your home studio setup, you know that my opinion of what is most important on the online world is your audio and having a great microphone. But in the hybrid world, it's the internet, because if you don't have internet, they can't hear the audio anyways. So you got to have that internet connection. So that's something to consider when you're thinking about your space. Do you have internet in one way or another? And do you have alternate options? Do you have members that maybe you know how to hotspot and can bring that option in for you guys? Just things to think about. The second thing, you got to be able to see the people who are on the Zoom call. Now, granted, not everybody always has their cameras on all the time, but it is really nice to be able to see those other people and for them to know that you can see them. So some options. In Toast of Cobb, I just use my laptop and I put it at the front of the room with it facing the audience so that we can see the Zoom call. I did that as well at the pavilion. But at this meeting that I went to that you can see in this slide, Avilo actually invited me to this meeting as a panel discussion, and they had a TV hooked up to one of the laptops projecting the Zoom call. You could do this with the projector as well. But those two things, projector or a TV, those are nice to haves. They are not required. If you're just using a laptop, I would recommend having speaker view when somebody online is speaking, but having somebody or having gallery view when they're just observing. So because, you know, the boxes, they get smaller and bigger because of that. The second thing is the people need to be able to hear. So yes, if you use your laptop, you can use that internal microphone and it will function. But I highly suggest that you use an external microphone. Oh, I'm sorry. We're talking about, I flipped that. You need an external speaker. We're talking about people in person can hear the people online. Ugh. Well, we'll get to that. That's okay. An external speaker will allow the whole room to be filled with the noise. I use a small Bluetooth speaker that I've had since selling cell phones. Literally, somebody gave it to me like probably 10 years ago now. Still works. Talk about technology back then, right? But that helps us hear things. The key with that, though, is you want that connected to one device that is the same as that external microphone that you're going to be using, that we're going to get to in just a second. Now, it is not a have to have right away. It provides a better experience. So if nobody has an external speaker, it's not the first thing I would spend money on, but it would be something I would highly recommend to consider for the future, because leaning into like the one tiny, you know, especially if you have a big meeting room, it's going to be hard for everybody in the audience to hear. Okay, now let's go to the people online. They need to be able to, no, I keep putting this backwards. They need to be able to see and hear the people in person. I'm flipping this all over the place. It's terrible. So you're set up in the room. You really want to have 2 devices. One in what I would call the designated speaking area. So typically at a Toastmasters room, you have a place where people stand up and speak in the same time, right? So you want to have a device with a camera facing towards that speaker area. That way the people online can go ahead and see them. But then you also want a second device, a second camera facing the audience, like we mentioned before. Whether that is 2 external webcams, if that's 2 laptops, if that's a laptop and a smartphone that just dials right into the meeting, however it's going to work for you guys is what works best. So having those 2 different viewpoints at minimum, you can totally do more, gives those people online that better experience. They can see the person speaking, and then they can see the audience and see the reactions. The key behind this is to make sure that you only have one microphone turned on, though. You don't want every device, microphone, and speaker turned on. So make sure you mute and turn off the sound completely on all the exterior devices. You can have if you've got a lot of attendees, you can have multiple camera views of the audience itself, but you definitely want to have those 2 devices facing the speaker itself and then facing the audience. That way you can see everybody. And then here comes this external microphone portion. The microphone is so important. Let me show you why it is so important. Right now, what I'm talking on is my external microphone. It is a USB mic that plugs right into my laptop. You could totally get one of these. You could also get, a wireless lapel mic. You could get a wired lapel mic that then either is clipped onto a stand or can be passed around. But the difference is huge when you use an external microphone versus the internal on any device. So again, this is my producer USB microphone. And now we're connected to my laptop's microphone. I already see the smiles. Can you hear the difference? Give me a thumbs up. This is not fun. And I am sitting super close. Now imagine you're in a standard Toastmasters meeting in a room. I'm going to switch this back because it's probably annoying. It's annoying me and I can't hear it. And you're not that close to the microphone. You're not that close to the device. This is why it's really, really, really important to come up with some way to have an external microphone. But you can go on Amazon and you can pick up an external little plug-in lavalier microphone that has a ridiculously long cable, something like this. You can see me, right? And you can either clip it onto a mic stand or maybe onto the computer itself, or you can have it sitting up there and pass it around. I would recommend making it stationary so that you don't get that, hopefully this isn't too bad. You hear that? Does that make sense? All that moving of the microphone noises. So you want it stationary if you can, but this thing, I think this cost me $12. It is within a Toastmasters Club budget to be able to come up with one of these. But I would reckon that there's probably somebody in your club that has some sort of external microphone. What are we, a year and a half into this being online thing? But any external microphone is going to make a big, big difference because all too often I see in these Toastmaster meetings, oh, we can't hear online. Oh, can you guys speak louder? Oh, this wasn't great. And then they don't come back because they can't hear. There's this instant disconnect when people can't hear and they just feel like they're not heard. They don't feel like they're a part of the meeting. If I do this and you guys can barely hear me, is this a really good experience or is this just... Stephanie's face is telling me it's terrible. Stephanie, I love you. You got a great poker face that tells me. She was like, what is she doing? Crazy girl. Yes. And then there's that. You want to make sure they're feeling like they're a part of it. So giving them that great audio combined with that internet connection is really what you want to achieve. So I also want to show you some examples of what these different in-person meetings have looked like. So on your left-hand side, that's when we were in that pavilion out in the rain. You can see the rain on the ground. And we had my computer up front, and then I have my webcam actually on a tripod facing the speaker. So everybody could see the Zoom call, but likewise, they could also see the speaker on the Zoom call. Then in the right-hand side here, we had a little podium, we had a light, we had a table because this was a panel discussion. So we actually put the speaker that was online in the middle of the other two panelists so that we as the audience could see them, and then had another device so that they could see all of us. I'm actually going to pop back so you could see this one with Cheryl. We've got a podium here with a laptop on top of it facing the speaker once again. And let me see if the other photo, I don't think you can see it in this other photo. No, you can't really see where the laptop is in that one. Someone asked, what brand external mic do I recommend? Oh man. I have a few recommendations. I have a PDF on how to DIY a home studio that has links to specific products that I personally use. They are affiliate links, and it is a program that I do outside of this program, but I'll drop that in the chat, and then you can take a look at those. My microphone is a producer USB M audio, and then I'm telling you, this thing was like $12. Pop something, Pop Voice, and I got it on Amazon. It was not expensive. But I will go ahead and pop that in the chat once I pull the slides down so I can actually see the chat. If I can't, not gonna lie to you guys. Back to the setup though. So the key is having something, whether that is a table or a stand, a podium. I don't think you can, well, you can kind of see how the computer is lifted on this left-hand view up in the air. I have what's called like a laptop stand that makes it more ergonomic when I type here at home. My computer is literally on that right now. But what's cool about it is it's adjustable. So you can raise it up higher and lower it. And I would show you, but it would just be me shaking all over the place. And it would be a hot mess. But that allowed me to lift the camera up so that it was closer to eye level for people. So whether that's a laptop stand, if you've got maybe like a small standing, like a little bar table, even a podium, you can use a tripod. Hold on, my tripod's just in reach. These little tripods are great too. We've used this with the camera mount. I've like used a rubber band and tied my webcam to it. Probably wasn't the safest thing I've ever done, but it worked. You can clip the microphone to this. So something to prop up that laptop, tablet, cell phone so that it's more eye level with the people when they're standing up and presenting. But that's just for the speaker view. Otherwise, these are great for cell phones anyways, because they're adjustable. I don't know if you can see this pretty well because I'm probably small, right? So you can raise it and lower it. And so you can get different heights with this if you are using a cell phone. And these, again, these are not super expensive. And I will tell you, I found all sorts of different uses for this thing, like around the house. Filming, taking photos of the family when we didn't have a photographer. Yeah, you can come up with a lot of uses for these things. I'm just saying. Anyways, Stephanie, you need to tell me to stop rambling when I get off on a tangent. Yeah, I got ADHD. I'm gonna be honest about it. I go off on fun tangents. So this just gives you an idea of the setup. Again, those two devices, gotta have that external camera, gotta have the external microphone. Oh, I didn't talk about an external camera. I should. So real quick, if I go stop share, and then maybe you can see me just a little bit bigger. Right now, I do have a Logitech Brio for an external camera. It's a webcam. And then if I switch to, boom, this is my internal camera on my laptop. And this is a MacBook Pro that I bought it's only a year old, right? Like this should be a better camera, and it is not. For an optimal viewing experience, an external webcam not only gives you a better quality picture, And to be fair, I do have like a high-tech one because I couldn't help myself. But it's going to be movable. So since it's not right on the computer itself, I could then adjust this if I'm in a meeting, right? And move it around so that wherever it needs to go. Yep, the wallpaper ends. That's another sneaky, if you guys want to know about that, I'll tell you about that in a bit. But that way you get yourself a little bit more mobility. If you're having a panel discussion, if you need the computer on a table over here, but the webcam over there, you can move it around. So that is very helpful that I find. Bum, bum, bum. Back to this. Boop. Okay. So somebody asked a really good question. Do you recommend two people, a moderator online and in person? And Morning Flower, you are right on time because that is literally where we were going next, which is task delegation. I think for the best optimal experience that yes, you do need more than one person. You need what we call at Speakers Roundtable, a tech master, one in person, manning the computer. So like right now, Stephanie would be considered our host, right? She would also be considered our tech master. I like that you waved. What she can do in person is make sure that the people online don't have questions. They can monitor the chat. They can make sure the cameras are working. All of that, right? But you also do want somebody online who could let in a guest or a tardy member, right? Because when you're in person, it's easy to get caught up with what's going on and not realize what's going on online. They can monitor things. So you do want one in each area. But more importantly, what I highly recommend for Toastmasters specific is that your timer be somebody online. And I'll tell you why. I went to another club up in like, I don't know, Kentucky or Tennessee somewhere when I was practicing for the speech contest last year. And thankfully, I had my contest speech down to a T. I knew exactly how much time it was. But they had a timer in person with like little cards. And it was off to the side. So it was like as if they're talking and like the cards are coming up vaguely way off in the distance. I couldn't see them at all. At all. And I was like, at the end of my speech, I was like, how was my time? And they were like, oh, you're good. I was like, yeah, well, what was it exactly? Because I couldn't see that. It's really, really easy in person or online to see these virtual backgrounds that Toastmasters has made for us. Like that just, I don't care how small that box is, all of a sudden, poof, you see all that green. So my number one recommendation is make sure your timer is online and has these virtual backgrounds. And I would recommend the full screen ones too, because that little like stoplight, although it is kind of cool, it's harder to see. If you've got this computer, right at the front of the audience, and they're seeing the Zoom call, you can see when that comes up. There's no problem. So that's like my biggest takeaway for online and in person. Have your timer be online with virtual backgrounds so there's no guessing exactly where it's coming from. Oh, yeah, you're coming from Kentucky. That's awesome. Well, welcome. We're in Georgia, in case you were wondering. And do you install the app? I'm not sure which app you're referring to or what you mean. If you're talking about the virtual backgrounds, that was something that you can download right from toastmasters.org and then upload them to your virtual background. So when you go to your video icon and you go to choose virtual background, you can add new virtual backgrounds in there. If that doesn't answer your question, go ahead and maybe if you could clarify it a little bit for me, that would be phenomenal. Okie dokie. Must-haves. I would recommend if you're not taking notes, go ahead, feel free to take a screenshot of this because these are the things you really got to have an optimal, best experience for both the people in person and online. And of course, that number one was some form of internet. Got to have it. You need a laptop or a tablet that sits at the front of the audience so that the people that are in person can see the people on the Zoom. Now, this, of course, can be accomplished with a TV or a projector, but that is not absolutely required to do so. You do have to have at least one of those laptops so you can log into that Zoom account and get things going. And you do want some sort of a stand so that it is propped up well. A second device is required. And again, that could be a tablet. That can be a smartphone that logs right into the Zoom account. Like I could log in to this same meeting on my cell phone with the Zoom app and just have it work from there as well on its own internet, as long as you have unlimited. If you don't have unlimited cell phone internet, don't do this. Don't do it. You will get an overage fee. Promise from the girl who used to sell Verizon. I'm just telling you right now, don't do that. Make sure you have that unlimited plan. An external microphone, I believe, is a must-have. However, it does have an asterisk. You can get away without having an external microphone, but it's not going to be the optimal viewing experience. If you don't have access to one right away, I would say that would be the first thing your club would want to look at investing in, but don't not have a hybrid meeting because you don't have the external microphone, if that makes sense. I want you to have the meeting, pull your members, decent chance somebody's got something, but I would highly recommend still go ahead, do it with your computer system. But that would be my number one thing to spend money on first. But again, I'll share a link and it's way less. The next thing is stands. You do need some sort of stands. Now, when I'm with Toast of Calm, we meet in a church and there's like this pedestal thing that, if you were doing sermons, you could put on your Bible, your notes up there. And I don't know, I guess it's just a pedestal, right? I don't know what it's called, but we have that available. So I don't have to bring something for every device, but I do almost always bring my little tripod for the phones for other options. You just need something to get those things propped up in the positions so they're viewing the people you want them to view. And then the last must have is a tech master, both in person and online. You really have to have somebody sitting there in the meeting dedicated to watching the Zoom meeting itself, paying attention to the chat, making sure things are going well, making sure if somebody comes in, they're allowed in, right? They're entered into the meeting, making sure you put people on mute when you need to. You got to have those two tech masters. It's not as intensive once you get comfortable with it, but it is something you got to have somebody dedicated paying attention to both things to ensure the best viewing experience for everyone. Now, one little side tip. If you have a tech master, what's really cool is if you ask a question for the audience or you're looking for somebody to raise their hand, they will see the people online. And what I would always recommend is if you do ask a question or you ask for raising hands, that you first go to the people online for the answers, for the volunteerism, whatever word you use in your club. Make sure you go to them first so that they still feel like they're involved. If you just always go to the people that are in person, then the people online just kind of feel left out. So try to make them the priority online when you do ask a question or ask for people to do something like table topics. Now, our nice to haves. An external webcam. It's a better quality image and it gives you more options as to where you can actually put the camera and prop it up. And you could technically move it around if you need to during the meeting. Nice to have is an external speaker so that everybody who is in the meeting in person can clearly hear what's going on online. Now, I will tell you, the key to having an external speaker, an external microphone, is that they are hooked up to the same device. Let me say that again. When you have an external speaker and an external microphone, actually, this is regardless of the speaker and microphone situation. Whatever you're using as the speaker and the microphone need to be hooked up to the same device so that you don't get that wow, 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 echo cancellation thing going on that you've all heard, the screech of bad audio. I'm not going to try to mimic it any more than that. It's awful. So that doesn't happen. You want to make sure you're muting all other devices. Turn the sound off on all other devices. So mute the mic and the speakers and only using one device that is connected to both things. Most things these days will utilize Bluetooth in terms of the speakers. So in our meeting, I had a little Bluetooth speaker kind of further away connected to my laptop. And then you actually could see in this picture, the microphone I'm using right now, I brought, which was probably not my best choice, but in the rain, right? Like, oh. And then I had it directly connected into the computer. So both of those things were connected to the one device to prevent that bad audio from happening. That is vital. That should be a must-have item, I suppose, but that is super, super important. Also, what is nice to have is extra lights. Depending on your room, it could be dark, it could be weird angles. Just like at home, you might have either, I have 2 LED panel box lights, you might have a ring light, you can use a lamp, any extra lighting to light up the speaker area specifically so that the people online can see it well. Just like right now, if I had none of these lights on, it's raining outside, it's cloudy, you wouldn't be able to see me as well. It is much better experience that you can actually get good lighting and see the person speaking in person or online. So extra lights are helpful, but again, keep yourself simple to start. But if you have them, bring them. Also nice to have is a projector or a TV monitor. Again, that allows a nice big screen for everybody to see the people on the Zoom call. And that is really, really useful thing. But again, keep it simple. Don't stress it. My closing thoughts before our Q&A. Don't stress it. I promise it feels super complicated before you do it, but it is not as bad once you get in person. Have the resources, bring everything that you have that you're using at home, have your other members bring stuff, get to your location early and test. It's probably not going to be perfect the first time. And you know what? That's okay. The people who are online will appreciate your attempts, especially when you're striving to constantly make things better for them. Be a student. Pay attention. Watch the tech. If you record your meeting, play it back and experience it, how your people online experienced it. Just like if you were doing a contest and you give your contest online and you don't record it and then you have no idea what you said. You got to record what's going on and then watch it back to have that same experience. So make sure that you just take what you have, work with what you've got, but always be striving to do more and improve. I promise you are going to be okay doing this. And after your first meeting, you're going to go, oh, okay, that wasn't so bad. We could do better, but that wasn't so bad. What do we need next time? At this point, I would love to open this up for Q&A. Please go ahead and utilize the raise hand feature in Zoom so that I can follow along. And I'm going to close out of this so that I can actually see you all, but we can always come back to this and I probably could share these slides with you guys as well if you would like. Sharing. And back to you guys. Do we have any questions? The raise hand feature, side note, is at the bottom under reactions, and it should say raise hand, and you'll go bloop, and you'll come right to the top of the screen and shoot. Oh, I did that backwards. Shoo. Oh, hey, Kia, come off mute and feel free to ask your question.
Hi, folks. So thank you for this presentation. I think hybrid meetings are definitely the way that things are going to be going in the future. And so I appreciate the, the vision to have, give folks the, tools. And I know there's probably a lot of anxiety out there about technical, especially sound engineering type things, all of that. But I guess my question relates more to how to conduct the actual Toastmasters meeting when you have some speakers who might be presenting online and then some speakers might be in person. Do you change the order of things? I can feel like the transitions might be a little choppy. So I guess that's my question about like facilitating when you have some roles that might be in Zoom and some Toastmasters roles that might be in person. And how would you do that? I guess, the agenda that we all fill out might not fly with just the way we've been doing it virtually. So that's my question.
Absolutely. The agenda will work. What I would recommend is if you have more than 2 speakers, stack the speakers whichever way they are. If you've got 2 in person and 1 online, stack the onlines together so that they're going one right after another. So it's a consistent view versus trying to bookend them and have the person, because that would just kind of throw off the throw. I haven't had too many issues with, Ah counter or grammarian. As soon as I said Ah counter, y'all, I just said, how terrible is that? Is anybody counting on me right now? Don't be counting on me right now. 'Cause that was a ding. I haven't had any issues with that. When I did our first hybrid meeting for Speakers Roundtable, I am the Vice President of Education and we do a set schedule. So I specifically chose who was going to be in what roles that I felt were going to be confident and comfortable with those roles. And I stacked the meeting to lean towards the people in person because it was our first one, so that if anything happened, like not having internet and trying to figure that out in the rain, I could still conduct the meeting and go forward. Going from that point on, for Toast of Cobb, we have a mix and we really don't have much issue with it at all. We don't find that there's any problems. We just kind of roll with the punches. And but to be fair, we're very roll with the punches, loosey goosey, like we're going to make this work one way or another type of people. So maybe the key is tell your people it's not going to be perfect. And that's okay. Things might not go to the strict guidelines that I know some Toastmasters really, really, really like to follow, but it's still going to be fun and we're still going to have a productive meeting. And the Toastmaster in person, I would say, is probably better as well. So timer online, Toastmaster in person. And if you get to choose the schedule, try to fill it in to your best of your abilities. But once you keep going, it won't be so bad. Does that help?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Kaya, for that question. Amanda, we have one other question in the chat.
Sure.
How do you handle voting in a hybrid Toastmaster meeting?
Yeah. Well, there's a few options there. There are a lot of different apps out there that you can do. You can still run a poll if you're using polls on Zoom and then do the old school way in person and then just combine the two. If that is how you choose to do it, I would say whoever your tech master is, who is in person, but also monitoring the Zoom meeting online or whatever platform you use, have them tally things up. So that might not be your traditional role for that, but it'll give them access to both viewpoints. But there are also apps that you can get. Some of them cost money. So Jim might know some apps like that. I feel like he would probably know the answer to that one a little better than I would, but that's what we do. And we don't really vote that much. So I guess that also has something to do with it. Yeah.
One of the ways that my club and Erica Miller's club does is they have everything sent to every change. Anyways, we send it to the timer for the voting. And that's the way my club does it as well. The timer gets to count all the votes and you put whether it's best table topic or best speaker. And that works pretty well but we're mostly just online at this point. So
yeah. And I feel like if you have a smaller group, you could just text whoever, and everybody has the numbers. Yeah, somebody just we send votes to the cell phone. Oh, somebody, Miss Roxanne Rush. Welcome to the call. Roxanne Rush just sneak it in there. Okay. All right. I see how it is. Our illustrious district director. Sneaky,
Yes.
sneaky.
Welcome,
Yes, that would work
Roxanne.
too. You know, if you have 30, like Speakers Roundtable has like 30 something people. So 15 texts would get aggressive. You know what I mean? If half the people show up. But Toasted Cobb, we have, I don't know. I mean, we usually have like 8 people in a meeting. So that wouldn't be so bad. So that is another option. But you can always pen and paper it for the people in person. That is always an option. And you haven't used those things in a while. So heck, pull them out, dust them off, you know, shake them out, get your pens going. Do we have any other questions or anybody else who's in or been doing some virtual things and maybe I've missed something because I probably have, or some best practices or anything else? Oh, boom. Shan just popped right up. Hey, Shan.
Can you put in the chat or maybe later send in an email, a microphone, both the Bluetooth kind, the podcast kind you have and the wireless that you would recommend? I just went on Amazon and there were like thousands and thousands.
No.
So unless I read all the reviews, I would
Oh.
prefer a recommendation from you directly on the microphones to use.
Yes. So I just dropped in the chat my home studio DIY PDF that
Okay.
has the links to all the stuff I do for the home studio. So that's my lights, my mic, this fabulous blue wallpaper everybody always asks me about. Yes, it's real. I don't know. There's a bunch of other stuff in there, but that's a program that I put together. They are Amazon links and they are affiliate, but that should give you an idea where you can go. I know there's some microphones out there. Like there's a new one for video conferencing that's called the Owl. It's like a webcam and a mic, but it's like $1,000. That seems like a lot. You can get a decent USB microphone for like $80. So I really don't think you have to spend a ton. So hopefully that's helpful. That is so not Toastmaster branded. So apologies, Roxanne. That thing is like super Amanda Mae Gray branded, but you know, get you the links. Enjoy the flowers. Did anybody else have any tips or best practices that they found from their own hybrid meetings that they might want to share as well? Oh, Lynn. Hey, Lynn. Lynn is the president of Toasted Cobb. She put in a comment in the chat. Are the tech masters to be in the background or should they be more out in front, partnering with the Toastmaster of the day? Ooh. When I did it at Speakers Roundtable, I was out in front and I was not the Toastmaster of the day because I wanted to be able to manage all of the tech and our microphone was connected to my computer. So it depends, I think, on 2 things. One, your room. How is your room set up? What space are you in? How does that gonna dictate your setup? Because we all know whatever room you're in will totally dictate the setup as well. But I do think it's useful to be out in front because if there is a question, you don't want to be lurking in the back and hard to see and be like, hey, somebody online asked if they could go, you know, you don't want that. But I think most of our rooms are pretty small anyways to utilize. So I would say partnering with the Toastmaster of the day would personally be my opinion on what you should do. But somebody can totally argue against that with me. We can totally make this speech and debate class. I'm up for it.
Amanda, I have a question.
Okie dokie.
And I apologize, I do not see the raise hand feature anywhere on this screen. So I had to barge in. I'm Jim Fernander. I'm president of the Toastmasters of West Georgia. And we've been doing hybrid meetings for several months now. And I've often wondered if we have any guidance from the district or the international or whatever about what we do about the lectern at the in-person meeting. When we have somebody speaking that is online, I have tried both staying there at the lectern and I have tried moving away from it. I find both of them I find neither to be satisfactory. And I don't know if there's been any other organizations out there to have any suggestions. I also have wondered about when we have, for us, and we've struggled with this, we found that having the projection to the side of the lectern to be the best fit for us. If we have the projection behind us, you tend to forget about the online members that are there. And so, but you have a tendency to not look at the camera. So you're looking away, you're looking at the wherever the projection is going to. So I wonder if on those items, if we have any kind of guidance.
Yeah, so as far as standing at the lectern, I would feel awkward doing it. I would think, I mean, if you had the speaker in
do.
person, you would sit. So I would say follow whatever you guys would do if everybody was in person. So you have the computer up front or wherever they're displayed, and you go and sit down, and then you get back up when they're done. I would think that would be your best bet, because otherwise it's just weird standing there. And unless you're trying to get your stand goal in for the day on hours or something,
Well, then
I would think.
Then you have up on the screen, you have this empty square with nobody in it.
That's okay, because if I'm on the Zoom call, one, I mean, there's nobody up there, so that's fine. But two, I can just switch to speaker view, right? And then I'm only seeing whoever is talking anyways. So I wouldn't worry about having an empty square
Okay.
as much. I think it's just par for the course, so to speak, right? And then the second part of that was where to put the devices. Yes, I do think off to the side is probably your best bet so that you can see everything. And you don't necessarily want the camera in person facing the speaker also picking up the Zoom call that's projected on the wall in one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
That would be distracting from the audience standpoint in the Zoom call. Likewise, when you are presenting, I don't think you want the camera directly in front of you. Like if I have a podium and it's movable, I don't want to move it so it's dead center like this. I would say put it a little bit off to the side, but still in front of you. So it's still in your view, literally. So the people are seeing that camera lit up in front of them and can see the Zoom call. That's why I like using a laptop for that front one. So I like having two laptops so that when you're speaking, you can see everybody and everybody can also see the speakers. But that gives you the viewpoint to actually see all the people behind it. It is awkward.
Mm-hmm.
It is awkward. If you make sure that it's to one side, but still in view, and then everybody kind of sits not directly behind the camera itself, that will be less awkward. But again, that's going to depend on your space. Can your space accommodate that? Hopefully the camera is going to be lower than the person talking in height, a little bit, so they can see over it and you can see them in the audience. But that would be my best recommendation, is not directly center, but a little bit off center on the camera. So it's still totally in view of the speaker. So they're still looking at the camera. Maybe you need to put like a sticky note or a picture up by the camera or something, one of those little flag stickers, like sign here documents, you know what I'm talking about, like the little documents, put that up by the camera to help remind people to also look there. And then you got to scan the audience as well. It's going to take practice and being mindful of it. Oh, and that's one thing I didn't mention, let everybody know at the beginning what the setup is, both online and in person, so that you establish what it's going to be like for the meeting. If you've got somebody that hasn't been in person before, at the beginning of the meeting, set the stage, right? We are both in person and online. When you are speaking, we request that you talk to the camera and also talk to the people in the room. And that way, the people in the room know what to do, but then also say, and to everybody, I look right in the camera, and to everybody online, so we've got this main camera as far on the speaker themselves, and we're going to try to have everybody come to the same spot so you can see them. And then we also have that second camera so you can see the audience and the audience can see you. It'll take, 30 seconds at the beginning of your meeting to explain what the setup is so that everybody's on the same page. And that will make sure everybody feels more inclusive as well. Does that help?
It did. I appreciate that.
Good. I'm glad.
Have a hand raised by Jim Few.
Hey, my friend Jim, let's crack a lackin'.
I wanted to make a couple comments. So first of all, going to microphones, I'm going to screen share with you guys. This is the Rode Wireless Go 2. It is yes, it's $300, but you need to think about something if you're going to be thinking about hybrid or even being able to do things in the long term. This is a transmitter with a receiver with 2 transmitters, has a 200-meter range, and you can plug this into the computer or the phone if you're using a phone as a camera, which you could actually put on Zoom, and that could be your camera. That gives you the freedom of movement of your speakers. They're not having to run around holding a microphone. So that's something that you may want to consider. It's something that I use for a lot of the stuff I do with live streaming and doing videos as well. And so the other thing though too, and I want to go back to what I just said. So right now I'm using a Sony camera as my camera, and going back to what Amanda was talking about, so you can start to see a difference in what happens with cameras, is if I were to switch my camera, let me find my camera switch here on Zoom, and I were to go to my webcam, you can see there's a huge difference in the quality. Of course, I've been doing this stuff for a while, so that's why you see differences. But these are the things we need to think about as presenters and as we start to do these things if we want to catch people's attention. But if you have this simple device right here, an iPhone or an Android phone, the cameras in here are more than adequate. I used to run a meeting at the YMCA. We did a meetup, and we would use this as the camera for the speakers, because if you put it on a tripod, you know where the camera is. Once again, the speaker with a lapel mic or with a wireless one like I just showed now has freedom of movement and can be more engaging to the audience as opposed to standing in one place, which is a problem that I think we have right now in general with Zoom fatigue, is people are not learning how to get movement into their presentations. And so that's just a couple tips that I would throw out there.
Thank you, Jim. I knew you'd have something to add. But Jim's right. You know, you want to be able to use whatever tools that you have, and your phones are phenomenal resources. And the benefit with the phone as well, since it is a smaller profile, then it's not going to take as much room and it won't be as distracting either. Wait, yes, my friend Jaquita, how are you? You got a question for me? You got to come off mute so you can talk to me.
Yep. I have found I'm with Tea Toasters of Vinings, and we've been using hybrid for the last few months, and we're going back to an in-person meeting. And one of the things I wanted to share with everyone is we're doing more special event meetings, but I think even if you're not doing that, if you send out a flyer we always include the link for the event for virtual, but I think by inviting people to attend live at a physical location can be just as helpful. So I always tell people, if you're putting information out about your Zoom, also say, if you're in the Atlanta area, which is what I use, if you're in the Atlanta area, you're welcome to join us live at, and then I include the address. And I found that to be very helpful for those who would prefer to come and meet in person, as well as those that are doing virtual. Now I have a question. One of the things that I've wrestled with is when we're doing, and you may have already answered it, I had to leave a couple of times to take calls. But one of the things I've always wrestled with is when you have people that are at the location and you only have 1 or 2 people or 3 or 4 people in physical, as opposed to say 15 that are virtual. How do you, what can we do to make them feel like they're part of the meeting? It just feels like, since so many people are online and it's only 2 people or 3 people in a room, what do we need to do? Do we make sure that they have a role And in setting up a role, should I ask if a person is giving a speech, are they going to be at the physical location or are they going to be virtual? Should we add that or include that in asking people to take on a role, either a speaker or as one of the other roles for a meeting? And I am open to suggestions.
Yeah, so I'm going to give my 2 cents, and then I'm going to call on Roxanne because I know she does this a lot as well, and she frequently has people in person, but sometimes a lower count. I think you do want to get the people online involved for sure, however you can, whether that's, being the all counter, getting them to do table topics. And that's why I said, if you're asking a question, make sure you have the answers come from the people online first. If you're looking for volunteers, get the people to, still use things like go ahead and type in the chat and get those answers first before you get the answers from the people who are in person, because that brings them into the conversation and keeps that connection going. It's a mindful thing, right? We have to be mindful of the fact that there are people online and actively be trying to engage them and keep them part of that. But the big thing that I've noticed that disconnects automatically is bad audio from the people in person. If the people online are hearing somebody in the back of the room and the microphone's up front, hollering out an answer to something, right? It's really hard for them to hear it, and instantly that disconnection happens. So that good audio, that's why I say it's so important to make sure you have something to pick it up, whether it's moved or not moved, some way for those people to be able to experience it better. And I think it's going to be a collaborative thing that we're ongoing trying to figure out. How do we make this work the best? Because once we get to big events, right, we've got a TED style for Toastmasters event coming up in the end of October. I'll be there. I guess you come on out. It's going to be a good time. But if we were going to do that in person and as a hybrid, that's going to be a whole nother conversation than a 15, 10, 20 person Zoom call or a hybrid meeting, right? We have to take into consideration a whole lot more things doing that hybrid. I haven't done a lot of those other than being as an audience member. And I know there's different apps and programs out there, but yeah, you definitely want to get the people online involved and make sure they feel heard by making sure you're actively talking to and with them, which is why that tech person in the room is important so they can see the chat. Because when you're on a Zoom meeting, you use the chat. It's just a habit now. And if nobody's paying attention to that chat in the meeting, then you've got to disconnect there as well. Roxanne, what have you experienced? Do you have any thoughts?
So we have the opposite. We have more people in person than we do online. The hard part is making sure that everybody that's in person is seen, because we do have a big screen and a camera that tends to move occasionally with the voice that it hears. But we have a remote that we can use to zoom in on people. We try to make sure that the people that are on virtual know who's in the room, first of all, especially if the table topics master is virtual. The second thing is, a lot of times the virtual people miss the body language of the audience. So the audience will do something funny. And so like for me as Toastmaster, I try to tell people virtual what happened in the room so that they can laugh along with us. Even though they don't necessarily see it, you can describe it. You try very hard to make sure that everybody can be seen, but it can be difficult sometimes. Our room's pretty big. And again, we ask after the meeting, and periodically we make sure that the people that are virtual, A, can see us, and B, can hear us. So you want to make sure you're evaluating all the activity that is happening to make sure that everybody's getting the experience that they would have gotten in person.
Yeah, that's great advice. Making sure to check in, ask for feedback. Heck, it's Toastmasters. You can do that. Ask the people what it was like and watch it back and make that expectation known. Again, that's why telling those people at the front of the meeting who is there. I didn't think of who is there. That makes total sense. Who is there, what the setup is like, so the people online know what they're well, know what they're getting themselves into, right? But I really like that idea of letting them, almost like having a roster or a roll call of who all is there. Yeah, that's why I say at least 2 devices, one on the speaker area and one on the audience. Try to get as much of that as possible. But the more devices, the merrier too, right? If you got a big crowd, a big room, and you got 2 smartphones facing the audience and then a laptop up front, you're getting more out of it. And odds are good you got more than one member who has a smartphone that can do this for you. And just make sure you're always keeping the Zoom link the same. Don't have some crazy other link because you're in person versus just use the same link. You can schedule that. That's pretty easy to do. So it's consistent every week. Kari?
And Amanda, there was a question about whether the district or Toastmasters International had any specific guidance, and Toastmasters International doesn't have specific guidance about specific things you have to do, but they do have a hybrid meetings resource page that you can also check out, and it has tools and resources that you can use, as well as articles from the Toastmasters magazine that describes other clubs around the world that are having hybrid meetings. So I'm going to put the link to that in the chat.
Perfect. I was just going to go look for that. There's also some good YouTube videos on this. I mean, full disclosure, I totally watched YouTube videos to try to see if I could learn anything else. And there was a guy who was a comedian and a Toastmaster out of Switzerland that had made some videos on how to hybrid. And I was like, cool, thank you. I stole one of his photos. I was like, oh, this is great. Because he had a good setup photo. I credited him. Don't worry. It says photo credit at the bottom. Kari was giving me a face like, girl, I did the right thing. Thank you. But yeah, that I think we're all trying to learn. And the more that we just share the information and put the information out there and start those dialogues and conversations, or, tell us what's worked as a district, because it's a new world for everybody, right? Not everybody. I do think there are some clubs that have been doing this for a really long time. I just don't know if there's any in District 44. I suppose we could poll the peoples. Any other thoughts, questions, comments for me, for any of the district leaders that are on here? I'm going to throw them under the bus a little bit.
I was just going to say, make sure your phones and your laptops are charged, especially when you're in person, because I've been very close to running out of battery life.
That is a solid point. I forgot. Yes. Make sure you bring your chargers, bring an extension cord, maybe a little power thingy. Yes. Oh, yeah. At the pavilion, I brought an extension cord. Couldn't use it. Oh man, Kari, you were at that event. That was something.
There. Yes. That was something. It went well though. I thought it went very well. Yeah, it worked out.
We can do it under these conditions. We'll figure it out in a building with Wi-Fi and electricity. Okay. If I can do it in a pavilion in the rain with no electricity and no Wi-Fi, I am confident you can do a meeting hybrid in your space that is in a building.
That's the beginning of the story of how this workshop came to be.
Kari was like, well, if you could do this, you should tell other people. Touche, Kari. Yeah, we can do that. I'm confident though. You guys can figure this out. I promise. Any other thoughts or questions? Technically, you got me for 20 more minutes. About anything else that I might be able to help you with? If you have any questions on how to set up a space at home, I can help you with that too. If not, we'll end early. I mean, I'm not opposed to that.
Yeah.
I was like, you can give me an hour and a half, but.
Not seeing any other questions at this time, so you guys can think about it while we bring up our district director for any comments and closing remarks. And if you think of any question, please either raise your hand or put them in the chat and we'll bring Amanda back up. And after that, we'll bring up our program quality director for any announcements. So, Madam District Director, how are you? Welcome.
I'm great, thank you. Past District Director Phyllis Breach, and happy belated birthday to you.
Thank you.
So thank you all for being here tonight. I've been running from meeting to meeting. I want to echo what Amanda said. just have fun and take a deep breath when you move back into the hybrid world. We have been meeting as a hybrid club since October, and we still learn different lessons and figure out different ways to set up our room that makes it better for in-person and the virtual world. And a lot of times, like I said, depending on how many people show up in person, we have to reconfigure the room. We used to face one way when we were all in person, and now we've switched the room so that we face another way. And that allows us to see all the people that are on the screen in hybrid world. We've also gotten a lot of guests that have attended in person. We have more guests show up in person than we do virtually. So if you are considering moving into the hybrid world and you have a space, I would highly recommend it, because people are ready to get back out, be in person, and come to a Toastmasters meeting. So again, thank you all, and feel free, to reach out to me as well if you have any questions about meeting hybrid. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam District Director. And before we bring up Kari, we posted, both Stephanie Ray has posted the survey in the chat. Please give us your feedback so it'll help us in planning other workshops. And of course, we want to make sure that we give Amanda Gray some love for doing such an excellent job and helping us become more efficient in running hybrid clubs. So thank you, Amanda Gray. With that, I will bring up our program quality director, Kari Evans.
Thank you, Phyllis, and thank you again, Amanda. As I said, the speakers roundtable, outside picnic party, meeting, get together, whatever it was the start of an idea that said, oh yeah, if they can do this way, hey, we can figure it out, and you can all figure it out. Thank you again. Thank you very much. I will send this recording to all of you that have participated, and it will also go on the District 44 website. Speaking of the District 44 website, I just want to invite you to keep an eye out on the District 44 events page. There are a number of events taking place, including the event that Amanda Mae Gray mentioned, the TED Style for Toastmasters workshop, where you'll get to learn about that particular type of presentation from TEDx coaches and presenters, and it's on October 30th at 9 a.m. I'd also like to just give a special shout out to the dynamic District 44 education team. They are so awesome in getting everything together and getting it all ready. So I want to just make sure that they are love and appreciation. Thank you very much. And thank you all again for attending. And I will turn it back over to Phyllis if she has any last things that she wants to say from the education team.
Just once again, make sure you do the survey for us. It helps us. Give us some ideas on other workshops that you would like for us to bring forward. We would love to offer anything that you need help with in running your club effectively, or officer roles and all those things. We do have an officer role event coming up in October as well as a handling conflict that will be led by Stephanie Ray, DTM here, who is my cohort in running these educational sessions. And if you are a trainer or know a trainer who is dynamic and would like to present a workshop, please send your ideas over to us as well. And with that said, that's all that I have. Stephanie, did I miss anything?
Didn't miss a beat.
Awesome. With that said, we'd like to give you back a few. I see a hand raised. Celine Jones, you have a question? Go ahead with your question, please.
I do. Thank you.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, with regards to people speaking in the meeting. I was just curious to know like how people have kind of managed the anxiety around people either speaking in masks or not speaking in masks. And I just was curious about how other people have managed that.
All right. Roxanne, do you have any comment on that question? Or
So we do require masks in the building, and people that are sitting around in the meeting, we do try to social distance. We do tend to wear our masks during the meeting, but once the person moves up to the lectern to speak, they're allowed to take the mask off because again, they're not near anyone. So we do give them that opportunity to speak without having the mask.
Likewise, at Toast of Cobb, we do the same. I think somebody also put in the chat, make people feel comfortable. Whatever works best for your people is what works best for your people. Don't worry about what we think, what they think. And if you think you need a mask on the whole time, but you want to be in person, then do it. It doesn't matter what other people think about whether they should or shouldn't wear a mask. It's really whatever makes you the most comfortable. And if they're in person, then they're probably a little bit more comfortable being in person in general. So, it's up to you guys. Maybe poll them in advance as well so that you get an idea from your club like, hey, we're going in person. We want to know before we even get there, how's everybody feeling about this? And that can change. And I would even say that. And it can change. With the variants coming, things are going crazy. We may decide we're still going to meet in person, but we're going to keep that mask on the whole time. And now we totally need an external microphone, like Amanda said, because you got to hear me through the mask. And yeah, that's how that's going to go. But just, you got to be flexible and just make sure that everybody is comfortable first and foremost. And if the other people have an opinion, then yeah, let them have an opinion. That's on them.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
awesome answers. Love that. Just be flexible and considerate and respectful of where everyone is in your club. And I think we all win when we do that. And that's all that I have, unless our program quality or district director have any other announcements coming down the pike. I think we are done and we finished. Great. Let's all give Amanda another applaud for a job well done in helping us to become more efficient at running Hybrid Club. So thank you, Amanda. You are awesome. And got a lot of hand claps. With that said, we will give you back your time and thank you for joining us this evening. Don't forget to give us your feedback in our survey and have a great rest of the evening. Enjoy your family and your time. And we're done.